me now to talk about some of this is former KGB agent Jack Barsky. He's the author of the book Deep Undercover: My Secret Life and Tangled Allegiances as a KGB Spy in America. He's also the executive producer of The Agent, streaming now on major audio platforms. Jack, thank you so much for joining us. As you know, Putin is facing worldwide scrutiny for this unprovoked war. Do you think he's still the KGB agent that he was so many years ago? He's relying on that training, relying on those mind games that KGB agents play at this very moment.
I have to disabuse you of the notion that the man he is today was trained by the KGB, and he got his political skills and whatever he uses from the KGB. He was a mid-level bureaucrat in the KGB. He served in the city of Dresden in the 80s, and I happen to have met an ex-boss of his, Oleg Kalugin, who was in charge of counterintelligence for the first directorate, of the KGB, which was espionage. And he will tell you that he was not impressed with Mr. Putin. Putin is a phenomenal politician and a master chess player, because he has been in power for the last 22 years in a country where the standard of living hasn't much improved, particularly outside of the big cities. So how he got to who he is today is probably not that relevant, but let's not think that KGB agents are supermen. I am not, and I was one of the best trained KGB agents ever sent out.
Well, that leads me to my next question, which is Putin is not invincible. We spoke with the former CIA chief of Russia operations yesterday, and he told me that what Putin really fears is not the oligarchs or the Russian people turning on him. It's his fellow spies, people in his national security realm around him, intelligence realm around him. What do you think about that?
And that was Dan Hoffman, I believe. Did you talk to Dan Hoffman?
Steve Hall made that observation, but I think others have made the same observation.
But Dan Hoffman was also head of CIA, and I've heard him, and he says the same thing, and they're absolutely right. Putin has a complete disregard of what his people are thinking and doing. He knows that he can keep them under control as long as he also has the power players in his regime under control. Because if he doesn't, he's toast. There will be a palace revolt, and he's done. So he has to really walk a fine line, because he put himself into a situation now that is very difficult for him to get out of. If he thinks he can occupy Ukraine and declare victory, he's wrong, because I've heard other people say that, but I said it right when this thing started. Ukraine will be defeated. You cannot defeat a country when you fight the entire population. We lost Vietnam. We lost Afghanistan. The Soviets lost Afghanistan. So this would be a very prolonged, very bloody, partisan kind of fight, where too many Russian soldiers would be killed and come home, and eventually Putin's legacy would be kaput, and he would be deposed. So the choice that he may have still is find this off-ramp where he can declare victory and get out and get some concessions from the Ukrainian government, but that's not entirely dependent on him. So he put himself into a really tight situation.
And, there have been a lot of questions about his mindset these days. He's been isolated because of COVID, or at least that's the reporting that comes out about how Putin has been behaving during the pandemic. But you see these bizarre photo ops, the long tables, dozens of feet away from anybody. I've been describing it as Putin in Wonderland. What do you think about his mindset at this point? Is he living in sort of an upside down world, a reality of his own making?
Well, a dictator like Vladimir Putin or Adolf Hitler. I'm not saying they're the same, but anybody who is completely in charge of a whole country must totally believe in himself. All right, and there have been other bizarre photos in the history of Putin as a president, that half-naked picture on a horse, or when he plays ice hockey against the Soviet national team. All of this indicates that he has no little man in his head that checks on him occasionally. So he believes in himself, period. And if you think, and I've met people like that in corporate America, if you think you're always the smartest person in the room, you set yourself up for failure. And I think he is at that point. He may well have disregarded intelligence, and then he's now blaming a couple of guys from the FSB for bad intelligence. I don't believe that. I don't believe that they didn't know how Ukraine and the Ukrainian people would act. He probably ignored it because he knows better.
All right, Jack Barsky, thank you very much for those insights. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.